And this is just for the sake of helping people to open up about mental health issues. My grandmommy did not like my mom on the wedding night. They spent the night at their house, at my grandmommy's house. And my mom came down in curlers. And my grandmommy loved to be close and have familiar relations with her husband. So she could sense there was a problem. And then mom got pregnant. She stopped taking birth control and didn't tell dad, and she got pregnant, so he felt trapped. And she did try to get us counseling. I remember she wanted everybody, dad and everybody, and dad absolutely refused. And then she would go to church. She wanted us to be a good family. And dad would not go to church with us, but we all had to go, and we didn't enjoy it too much. But so those are just some things in a relationship. You know, I think they're both holding on by a thin thread of pewter something. They barely were hanging on. And my mom basically needed more support from my dad. You know, sometimes they go out, we get babysitters, and they dress up for a formal club that my dad's like Knights of something, I can't remember, but it was a social club, and dad played some golf a little bit. And my mom was a smoker and my dad wasn't. And I remember I'd go get in their bed and mom's pillow smelled like cigarette smoke and dad's pillow smelled better. I was embarrassed my mom had really terrible acne. And of course, we just didn't have any medicine for that back then. So things have improved a ton in so many ways. You know, and there was no medicine for depression. So sister who killed herself, there was no options. I mean, I have no idea. No one really talks about what she suffered. I think she was a librarian and she lived in the house she grew up in and she shot herself. But nobody really talks about it. We'd sit at the table and talk about Edgar Allan Poe and what a terrible drug addict. And it was really negative, mean, like, ooh, he was a bad person. And then, of course, as I've gotten older, I realized he has an illness. But it still seems like the family is in the mode of talking about Edgar Allan Poe being just a terrible person. Although I don't do drugs, so I'm not sure what they say I do so terrible. I know my brother thought I had too much sex. One time I was in an apartment and I'd had a boyfriend, Ken, and I had a baby, and I didn't want to ruin his life because I wasn't in love with him. You know, I liked him, but I never wanted to ruin any boy's life by living or loving or staying or faking just for a father for my daughter. You know, Jerry was one thing, but he was 48. So I didn't really feel like I had to be madly in love with him because I was probably the best thing he'd ever get. And I wanted to become his friend. I was never madly in love with Jerry. I looked in his eyes, and his eyes were almost the same blue that Kent's were on one of our first dates. And I said, I can do this. Isn't that weird? I was like, his eyes are blue. I like it.